Welcome to the Corporate Governance Program. I'm Amir Qureshi. Thank you for joining us. We have an interesting and exciting program for you today. We'll be talking to some of Pakistan's leading directors about the state of corporate governance in their organizations and their perspective on what is happening in the corporate governance arena in Pakistan. So let me now introduce to you our panel members. First of all, Mr. Zibur Mohiuddin, the President of Ericsson Pakistan. Thank you very much for being with us. Next, we have Sara Hashwani, the Director of Corporate Planning and Corporate Governance from Hashu Group of Companies. Thank you for being with us. And we have Professor Haroon from National University of Science and Technology. He's also the Head of Accounting and Finance. Thank you for being with us on the program. This program is all about corporate governance, and we're trying to, I suppose, promote awareness of corporate governance. And my first question, I suppose, is to you, Zibur. Your company, Ericsson Pakistan, is a private company. And so technically you're not bound by the code of corporate governance and so on. What's your opinion about corporate governance, and what does your company do in terms of following good governance practices?
Well, Ericsson Pakistan is a little bit unique in a way that although it's a fully controlled and fully managed company of Ericsson Corporate, we do have a local shareholding. And although being a private company and not being a listed company as such, we don't need to comply to all the requirements. But being part of Ericsson globally, we do have to comply with SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, which makes it, by virtue of being listed on NASDAQ, it makes it extremely challenging for us that even in these environments, we still have to have entity-wide controls. We still need to have all those bells and whistles to make sure that we are complying to a very strict code of conduct.
Excellent, excellent. Sara, I'd be interested to ask you, I suppose, yours is a family-owned business, and essentially, apart from one listed entity that you have, it is a family concern. So why, in a company such as yours, would you have a department dealing with corporate governance and these kinds of things?
Well, I think that in a family-run business, corporate governance plays a very critical role. Because family businesses are normally very dependent on the creator, especially when they're in the first generation. And so when you think about the sustainability of the businesses, when you think about streamlining the roles of family directors to ensure that the business will be sustainable through the generations to come, to ensure that family members have very defined and clear roles working within a family business. It is very important to ensure that you have proper systems and policies in place at a governance level, at a board level, to ensure that there is a lot of definition. Otherwise, it can lead to very, very difficult consequences such as disintegration of the business. It can have disharmony in family. So there's a lot of important reasons as to why good corporate governance is very important for family businesses. Now, of course, it is evident that Pakistan is the economy of Pakistan is dependent on largely family businesses, and many of them are privately owned. And as we know, ICCP doesn't. Of course, there's no. The corporate governance code does not have to be, or they're not regulated perhaps by the Code of Corporate Governance. So it's not always, corporate governance in family businesses is not always given a priority. However, it's really essential to have those structures in place.
Thank you. Professor Haroon, you sit on various boards, and as someone who knows quite a lot about this area, what do you think is the state of corporate governance in Pakistan at the moment?
The current situation is that for the last 6-7 years, a lot of reforms have been implemented in the financial services sector, because I've spent a lot of time in that area.
Okay.
And these are commendable efforts, but corporate governance reforms actually is kind of an ongoing process. It's ongoing in other Western countries, and you just mentioned about the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. That was after the situations of disasters like Enron and such other companies. So in Pakistan also, there are many more areas that need to be addressed, and this initiative by the World Bank Group, which is IFC more specifically, to introduce this project of good corporate governance is a commendable effort. However, there are areas that need to be addressed. For example, as just Sarah mentioned, family-owned businesses. Two of our major sectors, like textiles and leather industries, they are mainly family-owned businesses, and their concentration of shareholding is within the family or friends. Mm-hmm. They do not seek access to for their financial requirements to the equity markets, and maybe one of the reasons is they don't want to experience any dilution of ownership. But then what happens on the other side of it is that their companies are highly leveraged because they're borrowing money from banks or through the debt market, and as a result of which they always have to fall back on the state bank for help or rescheduling of loans or restructuring of their debt structure, and so on and so forth. Now, how to bring those companies within the ambit of good corporate governance regime, that is one issue that needs to be addressed. But you see, just to emulate a Western model is not the solution. We have a unique socio-political and cultural infrastructure. And you've seen that many of these groups have grown tremendously. And research studies have shown that there is no statistically significant connection between their performance, their expansion, and executive education.
Thank you, Professor Haroon. We need to take a short commercial break, but we'll be right back with more of the Corporate Governance Program.